Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folarin. My guest this morning, straight off the bat, Mr. Yemi Makpadirun, strategy and governance expert. Good morning, and thank you very much for coming on.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
And Majid Jamil, executive executive editor, Upshot Media. I was just thinking of, since I called Yemi a strategy and governance expert, what I could a political analysis and reportorial expert. Yeah, I found the expertise for you too. Good morning. Good morning, Majid.
You won't stop at me.
Good morning. Very, very busy weekend, gentlemen. Now we are beginning to see the 2019 field a bit more clearly. Quite a number of parties have shown who the flag bearer shall be, starting with, looking at ACPN, Accord, SDP, APC, and PDP. As I said, there are quite a number of them. But you know something? Journalists, newspapers, seem to have narrowed this, and maybe that's my concept, to a two-horse race. The candidate of the APC and the candidate of the PDP, but there are more. First of all, grab hold of that idea, Yemi, if you will. Give me your comments on that idea, that notion.
Well, my comment is that reflects a general opinion of Nigerians, even before the emergence of these presidential candidates. It's always going to be between President Muhammadu Buhari and whoever the candidate of the PDP is. Now that the PDP already has chosen Atiku Abubakar, it's very obvious. And I'm saying this with every sense of responsibility and without discountenancing those other prominent Nigerians who are running on other platforms. As the program progresses, we'll see why. It's going to be strictly between President Muhammadu Buhari and Alhaji Atiku Abubakar.
Okay. Now, before I come to Majid for his comments as well, I just wanted to make an announcement. The program usually runs from 10:30 till 11:30. Indeed, that's the way we hope it shall be running today. But there is something that we have to consider. There is the 2018 National Summit on Conflict Resolution scheduled. It'll be chaired by the Emir of Kano, Malam Muhammadu Sanusi II. It's for today and tomorrow. It's a live event. Burning issues of national and international concern shall be in focus there. And we will be joining them live as soon as they are ready. Thankfully, they're not quite ready yet, so we'll get ours in. But whenever they let us know that they're ready, we shall be cutting over to Abuja. Let me say quickly to Majid, before we cut over to Abuja, if indeed that happens within our time space, this whole concept of perhaps newspapers inadvertently or knowingly have reduced this to a two-horse race.
I'm a journalist, and I know who the contenders are, and I know who the pretenders are. I once said on this program that contesting for the position of president of Nigeria is not a tea party. You have to be ready. You've got to be loaded. You've got to get the cash. If you don't have all these parameters, like I said, we have 774 local governments and more than 200,000 polling units. You need representatives in all the local governments and all the polling units. So the likes of Showore, for example, is a presidential candidate. I admire his courage, but then it goes beyond wishful thinking.
Yeah, but Showore, I've seen him on air in his quest. He doesn't think that. In fact, Showore, like just all the presidential candidates, are really taking it very, very seriously. That when they come to be in charge of Nigerian affairs, this is how they shall go, this is how they should go.
Before you get to be in charge of affairs in Nigeria, you must win a mandate first.
That's right.
So I can stand up today and say I want to be a presidential aspirant. Okay. It's so easy to say.
Okay.
But going down to the details, you see, it is people who will be at the polling units as your agents on election day. And this just concluded the primaries of some of these parties. We had some aspirants that didn't even have votes at all. But then we have about 98 political parties now. I think about 90 of them will be fielding candidates. But maybe we'll have to zero down on two. We would have had a 3-horse race had it been the coalition been put together by the letter writer, the former president, came to fruition. But then I think it collapsed like a pack of cards. The attempted to go into SDP. They were rejected. They went to ADC, and I think it didn't quite work well. So I think that now they know that it's a very serious game.
In spite of the experience that dwells in that organization.
Yes, you know? Yes. So yeah. It's a two-horse race, so to say.
Okay,
it's
so
Buhari versus Atiku. Okay. All others are just.
Now, on that point, you know what we're going to do? We're probably going to hedge our bets, and just in case they come up for us anyway, we're going to open the phones as well, even as we're speaking now, so we can get as much of the program in as we possibly can. Going into, well, now we know who will be representing PDP. Atiku made this humble, speech. Bukola Saraki, Senate President, who also wanted the particular seat, has accepted the situation, congratulated Atiku, promised to throw everything that he had behind the effort, and has said that those who were expecting the PDP to implode have miscalculated. So it looks like all is well because they had a meeting. Whoever comes forward, whoever emerges, all of us are going to, support him. So all of that it sounds well, it sounds good statesmanship, it all looks good from a point of view of strategy, right?
Yeah, correct. That's the right thing to say at that point in time. But let's see, with the passage of time, how that plays out. It's one thing to say, I'm not going to be against your aspiration. It's another thing to say, I'm going to actively support your aspiration. They are two different things.
Yeah, but when Saraki said, everything I got, doesn't that suggest I'm going to support? I'm going to do all that I can for their great party
you're going to have a few
to emerge.
You're going to have a few of them supporting with all that they have. You're going to have some who already have committed enough and they don't want to commit so much more again, just standing by. It's natural. It's not just because it's PDP. It will happen everywhere. But let me say this. One thing that strikes me is that the emergence of Atiku Abubakar is not totally unexpected. But for me, it was a surprise. A surprise in the sense that I thought that politics is about loyalty. It's about stability. And with PDP coming to say it's now a reformed party, a regenerated party, it does appear to me that that regeneration was just on the pages of newspapers or didn't leave their lips. The reason is very simple. The first three finishers were actually latter-day defectors to the PDP. And so what does that tell you? Atiku came first, Tambuwal came second, Saraki came third. Yeah. So what have they been building? What have they been building? So I was expecting that people like, Lamido, who even in the thick of everything, through thick and thin, remained loyal to the party, and who has an appeal also. It's a gentleman that is presidential by my reckoning. I was expecting people like that to actually, spring a kind of surprise. But like I said, I was surprised, but Atiku's emergence was totally not unexpected.
Not unexpected. Yes. But people talked about a dollar rain. Newspaper editors went as far as the front page to show you that, look, this is not about rumors here. It's about stuff we know. Dollar rain alleged in the event. But at the end of the day, we just come to the end of all of that. Atiku Abubakar emerged. Don't know what dollars had to do with it. I've heard before, when we're talking about politics, about we shall meet them fire for fire, naira for naira, and by implication, dollar for dollar. But the APC, it had a relatively light job. Nobody else was interested. Now, since President Buhari is in charge, that seems to be a good vote of confidence. So that's been sorted. So it's going to be those people, and in particular Atiku, against Buhari. Interesting. But let me stay on APC. The First Lady has spoken up, has spoken out, and has said that she's not entirely happy with goings on within APC. And she thought there was cheating going on. Not so much cheating, injustice. Injustice in the sense that people buy very, very expensive forms only to find that their names are not on the ballot. This is not fair, according to the First Lady. Were you surprised by that? Coming into the political sphere, after all, the First Lady is not elected. She's not really a political player. But this particular First Lady, is a woman of her own mind.
Yeah, she's a woman of her own mind. But in this case, the First Lady, quote and unquote, is not speaking her mind, but rather she's speaking from a position of somebody who has an interested party. Recall that a younger brother, Dr. Halidu Mohammed, contested at the Adamawa primary and lost. So you don't expect, I mean, probably she will think that, well, as a first lady, you ought to have given me that grace of allowing my younger brother to emerge. Probably, if his brother had emerged as a governorship candidate in Adamawa, where we also have the presidential candidate of the PDP is from Adamawa. So I think but then I think she has the brother Halidu, Dr. Mohammed Halidu, has the senatorial seat reserved for him. So I don't think it's a total loss. But to generalize that there are problems within the APC, yeah, there are pockets of issues here and there, like that of Imo has just been resolved, where Okorocha's cousin, quote and unquote, has now emerged, and Okorocha himself emerging as. Then we have a problem with Ogun State that is still almost unresolved now, while Amosu is insisting that Akinlade is going to be the candidate. The NWC has ratified Dapo Abiodun. So issues like that will continue to happen.
Okay, it's part of the policy.
It's part of the policy. But then, I think the wife of the president is an interested party here because the younger brother is running.
Interesting. I would have thought, but what do I know about it? I would have thought she might have stayed above the fray because of her unique position. She is the wife of the president, and I don't know. You think that the things the president wouldn't say, neither would his wife, but I don't know. I'm trying to hear the president saying that, why did you not let the brother of my wife, you know, I can't imagine Buhari saying that.
Obviously. I mean, if he had any intention, ab initio, to ensure that his brother-in-law emerged as, you know, the candidate in Adamawa, he will have pulled all the stops to ensure it. So the fact that it didn't even happen, I think it's very good for the president.
And it speaks about the man Buhari himself.
Yes.
And also the freedom within his household.
Exactly.
Madam can say what she wants.
Yes.
You know.
And so this man is also showing us that he's not really who some people imagine him to be, you know, a dictator. Again, also, the first lady is human. She doesn't have to agree all the time with, you know, what happens. Just yesterday, Melania Trump was saying, I don't agree with my husband on all issues. But again, the difference is she hardly comes out, you know, to say I disagree with Mr. President. But for me, Mrs. Buhari has chosen to be herself. She's a young woman, by the way, you know. She's 41, 42. So those things are expected. And I foresee her having a political career ahead of her, you know, maybe after the husband leaves office. So having said that, for me, I don't think it's a really big issue.
Okay, indeed, that's the way it seems to be being treated. Otherwise, I imagine that, let us face it, in Nigeria, in an African setting, a husband could, how does one put this now? A husband could persuade his wife to be reticent, but apparently the president didn't bother. That's not the way it goes. Let everybody be free. Have your say. Donald Duke is also in this race. That's another name. Give me your thoughts on that, gentlemen. Okay, I heard from you last. Okay. Majid.
Yeah, for Donald Duke.
You people have already said it's reduced to a two-horse race, and for good reason. What is Donald Duke thinking coming into the fray?
Even in Cross River, where he excelled, I doubt if he would have any much impact against an Atiku in Cross Rivers. I mean, we will see the results in next February, in February 2019. It's beyond an individual now. You need a platform. You need a structure. Beyond Cross River, I doubt if Donald Duke will make any great showing, even in Cross River. But no matter how fantastic you are, you need a platform. The Mogalus of this world, one would have expected a very good and vibrant debate or contest. But here we are down to Buhari 75, Atiku 71 years. I mean, those are the two we had to contend with. The two of them are Muslims. The two of them are Fulanis. So for those who feel there's a problem with her, so now the choice is very narrow.
And you can't play the geriatric card.
Because they're very close.
Yes, they're very, very close.
That is it.
Femi in the UK, good morning.
Oh, hi, good morning. I just want to make a contribution.
Oh, did I get your name right? Is it Femi?
Right. I was just listening to Mr. Yori.
Yes.
And he was talking about the president's wife.
Yes.
Making a contribution, trying to criticize APC.
Making a partisan contribution. Yes.
It's for the president's wife. So I know she's a Nigerian. She has the right to contribute to say whatever she likes. This is a time for her to be quiet and be very. This is a sensitive time.
Okay. So you also take exception. You take.
It's a time for her to be sensitive.
Oh, okay.
It's a sensitive time. This is a time for her to listen and not voicing her opinion.
All
she has
right.
no right to be criticizing the APC Oshimole.
Oh, okay. Yes. Thank you very much
That's wrong. She should now be supportive, not criticizing.
All right. Thank you very much for calling in, Femi, because she did say, the way the papers phrased it, bombs Oshiomhole and APC for the handling of matters. But that's Femi saying that, look, just as we said, but we've talked about it, perhaps Madam First Lady, the president's husband, can afford to not be partisan. But as I said, she's a woman after her own mind. But it's good to hear how people are looking at this. And, it is what it is for now. But I was a bit surprised personally that she weighed in a partisan manner on this whole matter, the kind of thing that you wouldn't see President Buhari do. I mean, if President Buhari were to do that, I suppose it would become the subject of, wait a minute, that's not the Buhari we know. But again, she's consistent. She's been this way outspoken. Remember the hyenas and all of those? Yeah. So at that time, she was applauded. Remember? She was applauded across the country, if not the world.
But then that has to do with governance issues and issues of administration. But this one is political.
Exactly. And there's also a vested interest. And that's not the way you think of the Buharis.
Yeah.
So that's why Femi calling in from the UK on this, we take the point that you are making. So the race is now, we were saying before, we have two senior citizens that are running in spite of the, I think Saraki tried to, put the not too young to run into his own, campaign, campaign speech. But look, Nigeria has decided that for now, these over 70-year-old fine gentlemen are our best hope. Let them go into the arena and we'll know which of them we're going to be taking. What do you think? There are those who, with good reason, are saying that, look, when will Nigeria have the 40s, 50s, maybe even 60-year-olds? It's not that there weren't some of them in there, but I heard this analysis, I read this analysis that in the North, reportedly, when they were trying to decide who to go with, I think in the PDP, one of the considerations was you don't want somebody who will be totally overwhelmed by Buhari because there's a cultural thing. How would somebody look, Buhari in the face as a 52-year-old, as a 55-year-old, and say you want to contest that? They feel that somehow it's not importantly right, but psychologically, culturally, it might be a weakness. So we don't want any of that. Now, is this the answer to find another 70-year-old? What do you think?
No, for me, really, it's not about the age factor.
It is not.
Majid tried to identify some indices that are parameters that you need to meet before you can aspire to be president. The platform is important. Your war chest in terms of funding, whether self or sponsored, is important. Your followership, and so on and so forth. All this takes time to build. And we are very quick to point at some other climes where you have 38-year-olds, 40-year-olds as president or prime minister. Those people didn't emerge as presidents or prime ministers because they were young. They emerged because they were electable. Now, in Malaysia, the people suddenly decided that they needed a 90-year-old. And then they voted for a 90-year-old's party. And today, the Prime Minister of Malaysia is 91. Now, in the United States of America, they had a young Obama living. And a young Obama was replaced by a 71-year-old Donald Trump.
So there's more to age.
So it's really, in other climes, when you mention the issue of age, it is regarded as discriminatory.
Indeed.
It is only here that we talk about it. That's ageism. So you never see job applications indicating age limit and the rest of it. So it's really not about age.
Okay, I'm sorry. Thank you very much. I didn't want to interrupt you, but Mr. George is waiting on the line. Good morning, sir. Mr. George? Mr. George?
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
And good morning to Mujid and Mr. Mapadero.
Yes.
Uncle Yori, I thought the PDP had learned its lesson on the past. From all indications, they have not learned anything. I thought they were going to look for a candidate that people would want to listen to, not anyone that has baggages that could be arrested anytime for corruption. But that's not what we saw over the weekend. I do not see Nigerians voting for a candidate that cannot travel out of Nigeria to the United States General Assembly. Atiku is not able to visit the U.S. It has been a contending issue for years. And then the populace of this country cannot return. We don't want a government of corruption anymore. What they have demonstrated in Port Harcourt shows that they have not actually changed. So it's like making it easy for the president to say true. I would say the APC should not take chances, but the way events are turning out, it's like the coast is clear. So I want to say congratulations to the president in advance.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for calling in, Mr. George. And I'm not going to go to Majid because I know where Majid's, I'm going to come to you. And then after I've heard from you, I might hear from Majid. What do you think? The coast is clear. It's an easy road for Buhari. How would you see it? Because I know for sure that's not the way Atiku sees it.
Well,
haven't listened to him
maybe that's
since victory.
Maybe that's not exactly how I see it also. But there seemed to be a preponderance of that view. You know, my son turned 19 yesterday. I went to visit him in school. He was the one that broke the news to me that Atiku has emerged. And he said it does appear that that makes it easier for the president. And I asked why. Now somebody has also called in to say the same thing. But I will need to warn. Because the only thing that seems like a sword of Damocles that is, wavering over Atiku is the issue of his ability or inability to visit the United States. In the first place, that is not a constitutional requirement to become president. However, those little things actually count for a lot when the chips are down. But again, this is something that can now be overcome, in one day. For instance, if he's able to get the State Department in the United States to issue a statement that they have no investigation about him, and is able to get a visa, a valid U.S. visa issued to him, that forecloses that.
Even diplomatic immunity is in there too.
That is if he eventually. They are talking of things that may prevent him.
Since he said that he's sure he's going to go to the next most important step, which is winning the presidency. I heard him say that.
No, the moment he becomes president of Nigeria, he will be free to travel anywhere, unless the International Criminal Court, decides that he has committed any war crime, like the man in Sudan, who is unable to travel to certain countries. So the truth of the matter is, it's a big issue. Okay. And the campaign team of Atiku Abubakar has to find a way around that.
Okay. Well, actually, I'm being alerted that we have to go over to Abuja very shortly, almost immediately, which I did say at the top of the program. But Majid, this is a conversation I imagine we're going to keep up maybe tomorrow, maybe a few days afterwards. But things are going smoothly. We have the president, we have the candidates of all of these parties. We've just taken out, there's Ezekwesili also in there, you know, a lady contestant. But at least we now see the lie of the ground. Give me your thoughts very, very briefly, please, on the concept of, oh, this is a clear road for APC and Buhari with the kind of field that he's going to be running in.
No, I won't subscribe to that. Just like Yemi said, the way the Nigerian voters react to issues are quite strange.
And indeed react to dollars.
Yeah.
Let it be said.
And I'll bring us back to what happened in the
briefly, please, because
yeah.
we have to go over to Abuja.
Adeleke, I mean, it was open knowledge that he had F9 in WAEC, and that the only credential he brought to the table is that he's a good dancer. But he garnered more than 200,000 votes. He could have won, if not for Omishore. So the way electorates react to these issues are quite different from the way things should be normally. So I see Atiku giving Buhari a good fight.
Indeed. Well, we're going to have to leave it there. And I want to thank you very much, gentlemen, for coming on. It's an abridged edition of the program because of the 2018 National Summit on Conflict Resolution, sponsored by The Nation newspaper and TVC News, Nigeria. It's at the Air Force Conference Center in Abuja, and in focus will be burning issues of national and international concern. It's going to be chaired by the Emir of Kano, Malam Muhammadu Sanusi II. It's for today and tomorrow. So we're going over to Abuja now. See you tomorrow, God willing.